February 16, 1923. Valley of the Kings. The entire world held its breath as archaeologists opened the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. This discovery revolutionized historical science and launched a true golden age of Egyptology. Dozens of expeditions headed to Egypt. Among them was the team of Hamilton M. Wright, who led a large-scale project to clear the Giza plateau. 10 years of painstaking work. And in 1935, they found something that official science would have preferred never to know about. Here's what Wright himself reported. We discovered an underground tunnel used by the ancient Egyptians 5,000 years ago. It runs beneath the road connecting the Second Pyramid and the Sphinx. From the tunnel, we excavated shafts more than 38 meters deep with spacious chambers and side rooms. This is not fiction. This is a quote from an official report. Leading newspapers and academic journals around the world wrote about this discovery. And suddenly, that same year in 1935, Egyptian authorities imposed a complete information blackout on any mention of underground tunnels in Egypt. The story disappeared, as if on command. What frightened the authorities so much that they decided to silence this discovery? And why did a tunnel seen by dozens of researchers suddenly cease to exist officially? Today we're opening this case, and what we find will make you think not about Egypt's past, but about what's being hidden from us right now. Welcome. Let's start with what was known even 2,500 years ago. 5th century BCE, Herodotus, the father of history, visits Egypt. A local priest guides him through secret places. In his writings, Herodotus reports, "Near the place where the labyrinth ends stands a pyramid with animal figures at its base. An underground passage leads to it, and I was told that these underground chambers connect it to the pyramids of Memphis." Memphis, which Herodotus mentions, is what we today call the Giza plateau. 800 years pass. Syrian philosopher Iamblichus writes about a system of underground tunnels, the entrance to which is located directly in the body of the Sphinx. His words are remarkably precise. In the belly of the Sphinx, galleries were carved leading to the underground part of the Great Pyramid. These galleries were so skillfully crisscrossed that without a guide, one inevitably returns to the entry point. Two independent sources, separated by 8 centuries. Both describe the same thing. This is no longer a legend. This is historical fact that official science prefers to ignore. But the most incredible statement on this topic was made not by a historian or philosopher. It was made by a man called the Sleeping Prophet. Edgar Cayce, born in 1877, an American psychic who made predictions in a trance state, all of them stenographed at his bedside. He predicted the 1929 stock market crash, the deaths of 2 American presidents while in office, Hitler's rise and fall, the collapse of the Soviet Union, and that the 44th President of the United States would be black. The last thing he predicted was his own death. On January 1st, 1945, he announced that he would be buried in 4 days. 3 days later, he died of a stroke. And here's what he said about the Sphinx in 1932, 3 years before Hamilton Wright's discovery. "Beneath the front paws of the Sphinx lies a hall of records, a repository containing the true history of humanity, documents about Atlantis, and a complete chronicle of a vanished civilization. Scientists will open it in the 1990s, in perfect preservation, like a time capsule." He also claimed that the Sphinx is not 4,500 years old, but about 12,000. What's behind this, we'll find out right now. The official history of the Sphinx looks like this. It was built by Pharaoh Khafre around 2,500 BCE as a guardian of the Great Pyramid, the tomb of his father Khufu. Everything is logical, except for one thing. Not a single mummy was found in the Great Pyramid, not Khufu himself nor anyone else. A tomb without a corpse. Let's go further. The main argument of supporters of the official version is that the Sphinx's face supposedly resembles Khafre's face, but one need only look carefully at both images to see. These are two completely different people. The key indicator is the angle from the corner of the mouth to the corner of the eye. On the Sphinx's face, it is almost twice as large as Khafre's. This is not a subjective opinion. This is geometry. There is also the inventory stela, a stone inscription found by a French archaeologist in the 1850s. It records that Pharaoh Khufu gave orders for repairs to the Sphinx after a lightning strike. But wait, Khufu is Khafre's father. According to official chronology, he died before the Sphinx was supposedly built. So the father repaired what his son hadn't yet built? The entire official history of the Sphinx rests on evidence that is at best circumstantial, and at worst directly contradicts it. But the real blow to the official version was delivered not by a historian. It was delivered by a geologist. In 1991, Robert Schoch from Boston University conducted seismic studies around the Sphinx. What he saw was so unexpected that NBC made an hour-long documentary about it, The Mystery of the Sphinx, watched by over 30 million people. Schoch studied erosion patterns on the walls of the Sphinx enclosure. The conclusion was unambiguous. The character of stone deterioration has nothing in common with wind or sand erosion. Before him was a classic picture of water erosion, deep vertical grooves that form only when rainwater streams flow down exposed limestone for centuries. How is this possible if the Sahara has been here for the past 5,000 years? There's only one answer. The Sphinx was built when Egypt was not yet a desert, and that's at least 9,000 to 10,500 BCE. An attempt to explain this by Nile floods? Schoch dismantled that too. Floodwater from below leaves a completely different geological trace. Here, only rain from above. John Anthony West described how he showed a photograph of the Sphinx enclosure with the head covered to an Oxford geologist, specifically to remove bias. The geologist instantly replied, "Undoubtedly, water erosion." When the mask was removed, the geologist simply stared silently at the photograph. No one could publicly refute this. 12,000 years ago, if we believe official science, people lived in small groups of hunter-gatherers, primitive tribes unable to build anything. And yet, someone at this time carved from a solid limestone monolith the largest statue on the planet. Let's return to Schoch and West's research. Water erosion wasn't their only finding. During seismic measurements, instruments detected something else. A cavity was discovered beneath the Sphinx's left front paw, large, room-sized. West was straightforward. We weren't looking for any structures under the Sphinx. I was studying mineralogical changes in the soil, but we found structures. And most importantly, we found a chamber beneath the left paw. A chamber beneath the left paw. Exactly the place Edgar Cayce spoke about in 1932. Exactly where Iamblichus described the entrance to galleries 12 centuries ago. Too many coincidences? Or does all this point to the same place? When the research results were made public, something remarkable happened. Egyptian authorities immediately banned West and Schoch from continuing their work. Completely. Forever. The man who achieved this ban was Dr. Zahi Hawass, the official minister of antiquities and chief keeper of what we're allowed to know about ancient Egypt. His reaction to the American scientists' findings? I quote verbatim, "American hallucinations." That's it. No counter-arguments, no data, just hallucinations. A year after the ban, in 1996, the Egyptian government approves a new excavation project around the Sphinx with a $10 million budget, personally led by Hawass. He enters tunnels under the Sphinx, not a word about hallucinations. Even Indiana Jones couldn't dream of being here. We're inside the Sphinx in this tunnel. No one knows what's inside here, but we'll reveal it for the first time. And what was revealed? 2 years later, Hawass suddenly closes the project and states with the same inflexibility, "There is absolutely nothing under the Sphinx." Nothing. He goes even further, denying the very existence of openings leading into the monument. Although these openings are documented and clearly visible, a hole on top of the head plugged with concrete, an opening in the back where Hawass himself looks on video, slabs between the front paws covered with modern boards. When asked about these shafts, he replies, "We already looked, there's nothing there. It's probably a pit dug by treasure hunters." Think about this: 38 meters deep, spacious side chambers, a useless pit from robbers. Does that seem convincing to you? For many years, the main counter-argument to any claims about an older date for the Sphinx was one: if an advanced civilization existed then, where are its traces? Show us other monuments. Show us anything besides the Sphinx. And in 1994, this argument crumbled to dust, because in Turkey, they found Göbekli Tepe. At first, a shepherd mistook this place for a medieval cemetery when he stumbled upon strange stones protruding from the ground on a hill. But when German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt began excavations, he realized before him was the world's largest megalithic complex, circular structures supported by monolithic stone pillars weighing 7 to 10 tons each, 6 meters high. Many pillars stand on top of each other. And all of this, according to radiocarbon dating results, was built about 12,000 years ago. This means Göbekli Tepe is 6,000 years older than ancient Sumer, older than the invention of writing, 6,000 years older than Stonehenge. It is the oldest known megalithic monument on Earth, and it was erected precisely in the era to which Shouk's geology dates the Sphinx. But that's not all. Three-dimensional images of animals are carved on the stone pillars with astonishing accuracy and detail, in a period when, according to the official version, the most advanced form of art was drawings on cave walls. Many pillars apparently depict stylized people with faces on top. Eerie similarity. Where else have we seen an animal's body with a human head? If they could create Göbekli Tepe, they could create the Sphinx. Göbekli Tepe became the main evidence proving 12,000 years ago, there existed on Earth an advanced civilization capable of erecting monumental stone structures. The construction dates of both objects coincide, and both precisely correspond to the end of the last ice age, that same period which Plato indicated as the date of Atlantis' destruction. The word Atlantis makes many smile skeptically. But before closing this topic, answer: where did this story even come from? The only primary source is the Greek philosopher Plato. He described Atlantis as a highly developed civilization that existed 9,000 years before his time. Plato never said it was a myth. He directly referenced a specific source: conversations with an Egyptian priest who told the story to the Greek lawgiver Solon. When Solon told the priest the history of the Greeks, flood, destruction, rebirth, the priest laughed and then explained, "In the long history of the world, there have been many catastrophes, and Earth has been repopulated many times. You Greeks remember only the last flood, but we have records of previous ones." Records. The very records that Casey called the contents of the Hall of Records beneath the Sphinx. Several independent sources, separated by millennia, describe the same repository. But there's another layer. Researcher Robert Bauval discovered something that overturned the entire concept of the Sphinx's date. Using the method of precessional astronomy, calculating the backward movement of Earth's axis over a 26,000-year cycle, he calculated which constellation rose on the eastern horizon on the day of the spring equinox in different eras. The answer is stunning. In 10,500 BCE, Leo stood above the Giza horizon at the sunrise point. The Sphinx, with the body of a lion and gaze directed precisely east, looks directly at the place where in that era, on the day of the equinox, its constellation rose. The three Giza pyramids precisely reproduce the position of the stars of Orion's belt in that same year, 10,500 BCE. 10,500 BCE, again, this date. The same date as Shucks, the same date as Casey's, the same date Plato indicated for Atlantis, the same date of the Ice Age's end, the same date as Göbekli Tepe. This is no longer a coincidence. This is a signal. The only question is whether we're ready to accept it. April 15th, 2015. Zahi Hawass is invited to an academic debate with Graham Hancock, author of Fingerprints of the Gods. The rules are simple. Each speaks for an hour without interruption, then questions from the audience. Hawass agreed on one condition: he speaks second. But even before the event began, he saw in Hancock's presentation a photograph of Robert Bauval, the researcher who dated the Sphinx by the stars. That was enough. According to Hancock, Hawass started shouting and issued an ultimatum. If you mention Bauval even once, I'm leaving. The debate ultimately proceeded, but without joint discussion. The climax came during questions from the audience. A woman, unaware of the backstage scandal, calmly asked Hawass, "How does he feel about the discoveries at Göbekli Tepe?" Hawass pretended he'd never heard of it. When Hancock tried to explain, Hawass said something revealing. "I don't think so, and in my opinion." Since when has science been based on opinions? Then he stated he doesn't believe in ground-penetrating radar, the very radar he himself used in all his Sphinx research. The man was nervous, wiping sweat, retreating to the back of the hall. One question from the audience, and the Minister of Antiquities' argumentation collapsed completely. Hawass is just one in a long chain. The history of concealing information about the Sphinx spans almost 200 years. Back in the 1830s, French engineers investigating the area around the newly cleared Sphinx discovered a doorway underground. Soon, people approached them and forced them to stop research forever. Today, if you visit the Sphinx, you'll notice something strange. The ground around it is mostly exposed bedrock, everywhere except one place. Directly between the two front paws, wooden boards are laid on the ground. Beneath them, slabs. They lie exactly at the level of the surrounding ground, meaning they weren't part of the sculpture and served no decorative function. They were clearly placed there specifically at a certain depth to cover something below. These slabs appeared here in the 1800s, right after the Sphinx was cleared. On top of them in our time, they added wooden decking, as if another layer of concealment. Look at it differently. If this were simply a section of solid ground, it wouldn't be covered. If there were nothing there, why wooden decking? Why has it been changed and maintained for almost 200 years? An Egyptian worker present during the late 1990s excavations described precisely this place. A descent into a shaft, a corridor, a room with carvings unlike any known hieroglyphs. Something more ancient, something different. Add to this the documented openings, the hole on top of the Sphinx's head, sealed with concrete, the opening in the back that Hawass himself recorded on video, the slabs between the paws. 3 separate access points, all closed, all officially denied. On a monument in which, according to the official version, there is absolutely nothing. Let's put it all together. Herodotus in the 5th century BCE described underground tunnels beneath Giza. Iamblichus, 800 years later, reported an entrance to them through the Sphinx's body. The inventory. Stela testifies that the Sphinx existed before Khufu. In 1935, Hamilton Wright discovered extensive underground chambers, and the story was immediately classified. In 1991, Robert Schoch proved geologically that the Sphinx was created at least 12,000 years ago. That same year, an underground chamber was detected beneath the left paw. In 1994, Göbekli Tepe proved the existence of an advanced civilization in that era. Robert Bauval calculated stellar alignment for 10,500 BCE, and Edgar Cayce in 1932, decades before all this, precisely described the Hall of Records beneath the Sphinx's front paws. This is not one chain of evidence. This is dozens of independent sources, each appearing in its own time, from its own bearers, through its own methods, and all point to one spot. Beneath the Sphinx's left front paw lies a chamber. What's in it, we don't know. But that it exists is no longer scientifically in doubt. The question is different. What happened 12,000 years ago? Why did all great civilizations, Egypt, Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, the Maya, China, arise at approximately the same time, with surprisingly similar knowledge, without an archaeologically documented period of experience accumulation? What if the Egyptian priests were right? Earth has survived many floods, many civilizations, and they, the Egyptians, keep records of previous ones. What if that slab between the Sphinx's paws is the cover of an archive containing answers to the main question, who are we and where did we come from? The Sphinx has been looking east for 12,000 years. It has survived the rise and fall of all empires we know of. It is silent, but the data, seismic, geological, astronomical, historical, speak for it. And they say one thing, there's a door there, and we haven't been allowed to open it yet. What do you think? Why have authorities systematically closed access to this place for almost 2 centuries? What is so frightening to discover in the Hall of Records if it exists? Write in the comments. Share this video with someone you think is ready to ask the right questions. And if you want to continue following the evidence where official science refuses to go, subscribe. Because the Sphinx is far from the last mystery being hidden from us. We're only just beginning.